Welcome to the Legacy Lab, where we are leaving a blueprint for the future. I am Melissa Story, and today's session is for moment makers, people who are making a difference not only in their lives, but in the lives of others. So, if you're not a moment maker, I'm going to give you a moment so that you can keep scrolling. Okay, that's enough time. So, for the moment makers, this message is definitely for you. Lately, I have been talking about this quiet confidence era, where I typically will say the quiet confidence era is where our peace gets louder than pressure. Well, it is so much bigger than peace. It does include peace, but it actually has 5 pillars: peace, power, purpose, presence, and poise. And that makes up the quiet confidence era. We want to make sure that we're solid in all 5 of those areas: peace, power, purpose, presence, and poise. And we're going to get into that in just a moment. Before I do so, I want to talk about the video that I did on yesterday, and it was entitled Don't Give Up Before You Surrender. And when I thought about it initially, I thought it was an oxymoronic statement, giving up and then surrendering. But it is so important that we remember why we started this journey. It's not only important that we remember why, but we also remember who we are while we're on this journey. Because everything is for something. Nothing just happens by coincidence. I don't believe that. I believe that God has a plan for our life. That means He plans the good and the not so good. And in that plan, there are steps, there are seasons, there are specific timing for everything to happen. So when we reflect on where we are today, there may be some things that we did to get to this point, whether it's good or bad. We cannot blame everything on God because we have free will. But as we are journeying, is that a word? As we continue this journey, we should remember why we're here and who we are while we're on this journey. And I think that those 2 things are going to make a very significant impact in our life. Sometimes it feels like we're not making the progress that we expect. But how many of us can actually see in the future? We may have some who have been gifted to know some things only by the grace of God that they know it. But to be able to know everything about our future, we don't know that. That's why it's so important that we don't make permanent decisions over temporary circumstances. And if you were to give up now, all of the work that you've been doing will be for naught. So keep the faith and hold on. Keep being consistent. And, sometimes when you look at social media, it seems that you have 2 very distinct groups. You have people who are getting all of the views, and then you have people who are not. It's rare that you talk about or see the people that's in between. And some of the people who are getting all the views, rightfully so, because some of those people were not overnight sensations. Some of those people started using social media platforms many, many years ago. And then we do have some. We have many who started and they just never stopped and they hit it hard. They were very consistent and their consistency has paid off. And then you have people who have started it and then they got frustrated and they stopped and then they start again and they see the things that's going on around them and they get frustrated and they stop. Well, I'm here and I'm on this journey. I'm new to this journey. In fact, I have used social media probably, I used to scroll on Facebook every now and then. And then summer of 2024, my goddaughter taught me, she gave me like a little tutorial on how to use TikTok and how to use Instagram and how to effectively use Facebook. And, I did it while I was away. I was away like 3 months. So I was dedicated to doing it because I had nothing else to do. But, when I got back and my schedule got busy, it almost felt like, only because of my mindset now, I did not look at it like a job and an opportunity for me to make real money or for me to really have an impact. And to me, the impact is more important than the money. Because when you impact people's lives, money is going to come. And maybe money won't come from the platform, but it may come in other ways. So, I went through that, but then I kind of fell off. And now I look back and say, I wonder what would have happened. Because in the 3 months when I was consistent and I was actually on it all the time, I was able to get monetized on TikTok. I was able to get monetized on Facebook. And yes, it was trickling in. It was no big monies. It was no like big dollar signs. But I wonder what would have happened if I would have stayed committed. So I gave up. When really what I should have done was surrender my schedule to God and say, God, show me how to do all that you've laid before me. Because here it is, I'm sharing my intellectual capital, God-given. I mean, I'm not real funny, but sometimes I can say a few things that crack me up, and other people might laugh at it. I don't know. And most times, I have more of a serious demeanor about myself, but then that's just who I am. I wish that I could just get on and just talk about stuff that other people talk about that sometimes I even find interesting. But I just don't even think like that. My mind just doesn't think like that. But I have embraced who I am. And I just know that I am going to find my tribe. And God is going to send people that I haven't even met yet. He's going to send those people to me. And that's what you need to know about yourself. You have to be your authentic self. You cannot perform. You cannot impress. And you cannot just grind all the time. So we have to give up the urge to do those 3 things, especially while we're on this platform. People want real. People want authenticity. People want to know what's real in people's lives and what people are really going through. So that's what this platform is all about, this quiet confidence era. So, give me a moment. Let me take a twig. So, let's go back to the 5 pillars of this quiet confidence era. The first being peace. That's our emotional regulation that causes us to be detached from chaos. It gives us a clear path to solitude. And we need that because Sometimes chaos comes in different forms. It may not necessarily come in the form of gossip or in the form of negative energy all the time. Sometimes chaos can just come in the form of having too many activities to perform within the same window of time. I call that chaos, where you can't fully be present in any one particular thing. Chaos. When your emotions are here and there, where you're not centered, that's chaos. And the question that I have is, can I remain centered when life is loud? And when I answer that question, yes, I know that I have peace. So sometimes I have to tune out everything. I have to, set boundaries. I have to set boundaries on my calendar. And I can't just let the possibility of a new customer throw me off and, rearrange my day. Because one of the things that I've learned about being in business is, sometimes you rearrange your whole schedule for the possibility, and for whatever reason, people may not choose you. And now you've rearranged your schedule and maybe even put off some of your long-standing customers for a possibility. So I have had to really sit in that question before I could answer it. Can I be centered when life is loud? And when I was able to answer that question, I knew then that I had my peace. And then the next one is our power. That is acting with self-trust and authority without ego. Yeah, let that resonate with you. Self-trust and authority without ego. Do I believe in what I carry even when I'm quiet about it? Do you know who you are? Do you know the power and the authority that you have? As a woman, I always feel like women, we have so much authority because God just gave it to us like that. And just our makeup, when you look at how a woman is made up, just look at our body parts. We have a lot of power and authority. I believe that. But my question is, do you believe in what you're carrying? Or do you always have to have it on a sign? Do you always have to, announce it? Can you be quiet and still believe in what you're carrying? And that's so important, especially when we think about the value that we add to others. In the beginning, I said that this video is for moment makers, people who are making a difference in not just their lives, but in the lives of others. We have to know that we add value and how we add that value. And some people may not believe in it. Some people may question or even doubt us. That's okay. That's their prerogative to do so. I think that people should be discriminating. I have no problem with that. I think that people should want to peel the layers back to investigate you before you start working with them, partnering with them, collaborating, whatever it is. And I think that people should decide if you're a good fit for them. And if they decide not, that's okay. We need to thank God for that, Because there's no need to get into a partnership, relationship, a collaboration where there's going to be constant friction because you were just not their cup of tea to begin with. So sit in your power, but don't let it become egotistical. Know who you are, know whose you are without the ego. And then the third thing is power. Are we living with clarity and conviction? See, some of us are clear on who we are and what we were called to do, but sometimes we don't have that inner conviction that keeps us going with it and to help us to continue to walk in it even when things are hard. I think it was last year I did a video, and in that video, I said that, confessing a thing is not the same thing as believing in a thing. Because you can confess something that you don't really even believe in. But it's when you have that inner conviction, that's when you know that purpose has shown up. I used to tell people, and from time to time I still say it today, that, when I'm doing something and I'm really, really in my element, I'll say, I love this so much, I can do it for free. And oftentimes I do it for free. And it got to the point where I was having a difficult time trying to understand how to even make money because I was giving everything away for free. And I had to go back and have a talk with God and say, yes, I do have this conviction, and I know you've called me, and I know I'm supposed to impact lives. But Lord, is it a way for me to do that and make money? So I had to have a long talk with God because of how I felt on the inside, about helping people and really sincerely wanting to see people progress and see people win. So the question that we have to have is, am I using my gifts intentionally, or am I just keeping busy? That was a hard question for me. Because I remember moments in my life where I was really busy. And was I using my gifts and talents? Yes. But it was not intentionally. You know how sometimes God has gifted us, and He has given us so many talents, and we can do well. And sometimes we don't even know how to do what we do. But there comes a time where you have to be very intentional on how you use your gifts and talents. And it is not just to stay busy. We need to corral all of our gifts and talents, and we need to sit down and figure out strategically how do we intentionally get from here to there. Making sure that, one, we don't disturb our peace, and that we, have peace as much as possible. That we are walking in our power, and that we don't turn that into ego, when we get to certain stages. And that we are deliberate about fulfilling the purpose that God has for our life. So we are making sure that even when life gets loud, we are detaching from chaos. We are going to make sure that we walk in our authority, but we are not going to be egotistical. And we are going to live with clarity and conviction. So we're going to be clear on who we are, whose we are, and we're going to have the inner conviction to do so. And then Another big one is presence. That is our mindful awareness, showing up whole in every space. That is such a big one for me. Presence, showing up whole in every space. My. Well, that one almost took me out, because I can promise you, a lot of times I might have been there in body, but I was not there in mind. I might have been there in spirit, but I was not there in mind. One second. You know, the question that I had to ask myself is, am I here because I'm needed or because I'm aligned? I'm aligned to somebody else's purpose. I'm aligned to somebody else's vision. Because I firmly believe that you have, in order for your vision to really, now this is for me. Let me just talk about me. In order for my vision and my purpose to be fulfilled, I have to support the vision of others. That's a part of who I am. That's a part of who I was created to be, as a help and as an encourager. And in turn, I do believe that I believe in reciprocity. So when I give, others are going to come. And it may not necessarily be the people that I gave the support to. It may be through somebody else who's going to come and assist me. I believe in reciprocity. I believe it because it's biblical, and I believe the word of God, and I stand on that. I believe you reap what you sow. I believe in seed time and harvest. So whatever little seeds that we plant, I believe that when time goes by and in the fullness of time, we're going to reap the harvest on that same thing. So if you're planting bad seeds, guess what? You're going to reap a bad harvest, whatever that might be. So presence, mindful awareness is making sure that we show up whole in every space. And then the last one, not because it's least important, but it's just last in this order, and it's called poise. That's when we have grace under pressure. That's when we have controlled confidence. It's almost like making sure that we're not egotistical or I guess I want to say puffed up. We want to make sure that we're not puffed up. And have you ever seen or heard someone say, girl, fix your face? Because although you didn't speak the words, it was all over your face what you were thinking. Well, with poise, we don't have to worry about that, because not only will we fix our face, we'll fix our body language, we'll fix everything, because the question that we're going to be answering is, can we hold our peace and our power at the same time? Can we hold our peace? Can we continue to be detached from chaos? And can we hold our power, that authority, to make sure that we don't overexert our authority? To me, poise is very, very important, and I am working on that. I have been such a firecracker in my day, and I have had to really pray and ask God to help me with my poise. God is taking me in spaces and in places that I cannot let my poise kick me out of some of the doors that He's opening. It's very important that I allow grace to cover me, and that everything I'm thinking doesn't have to be read over my face. So anybody who really knows me, you know, I'm working on that. And I've been a work in progress. And I must say that, you know, I'm not using any excuses or making any excuses. It is very important to me during this quiet confidence era that I work on all 5 of the pillars. That's so very important. So again, let me just do a recap. Our 5 pillars are peace, power, purpose, presence, and poise. I hope that I've said something that will help you on your journey. And I also pray that you tune in for future episodes of the Quiet Confidence Era. Not only will we be talking about what it is, but we'll be talking about what it looks like from day to day. So tune in. And want to just mention that many of the concepts I spoke about in my new book that's called The Dressed Up Pig. PIG is an acronym for Perform, Impress, and Grind. And I'm sure if you're over 25 years old, we've been in this vicious cycle. You know, we've been performing, and the more we perform and we get tokens of success, you know, then we begin to impress. And because the more we impress, the bigger the tokens get. Then we start building lifestyles and houses and cars and all that other stuff. And guess what? Then we are in an endless cycle of grinding. Perform, impress, and grind. So you can purchase this on Amazon, or you can actually click the link below and you can order it from my website. So I will talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in to the Legacy Lab.